Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic guest for you today. It's all about mindset. And with that, I have Meridith Alexander from Grit Mindset Academy. And we are basically this whole era is all about resilience. So I'm happy to have her on the show and talk about mindset. So Meredith, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here, and we're thrilled to have you listening out there.
Yeah, I know you have quite a lot to offer the audience, and I'm really excited for the conversation today. Very briefly, because I know you're a speaker as well. So just briefly, 1 to 2 minutes, talk about what you do, how you got there, and what the audience can benefit from you today.
Sure. So, yes, as you mentioned, I'm definitely a speaker. I'm a people strategies expert, and I totally got here to a certain extent accidentally. You could say, have I studied it for decades? Absolutely. In fact, it started when I was at Georgetown with being fascinated with how some human beings face these incredible obstacles, made these life choices, how to choose to live, and really just took off where other people face these insurmountable boulders per se, and it completely obliterated them in their tracks. So clearly, I was curious about how you would get into that first group as opposed to the second group. And so I began studying just about anything outer game as well as inner game, but it quickly became obvious to me that the real differentiating factor was always how seriously people would prioritize that inner game. So for me, where I say that it transpired by accident is because I was an entrepreneur and I had a very successful business, writing millions of dollars of contracts. And then right in the middle of a Friday afternoon, I get a call that my youngest daughter, who had just graduated from Yale, had literally been crushed by a boulder while she was on a fellowship in South America and was not expected to survive. And I needed to get down there as soon as possible. So as I sat on that plane and weighing what could I do to help my daughter, much less get my own sense of power back, it all pointed back to all those decades of the various inner game things from neuroscience all the way back to the Stoics, what man has been tossing around these ideas for thousands of years. And so I came to the realization that I may not be able to control the outer game. My marketing strategies certainly were not going to help me here, but I sure as heck could play a mean inner game. So that's when I said, game on. I took a completely different approach. I did not arrive as the second victim of that boulder. I was not this crushed mother who was like, please save my child. I got out there. I took this, what I knew from everything I'd studied had to be this leadership role in helping other people around the world who were hearing about my daughter's accident to help them feed the energy of, miracles happen. Things that are impossible are happening around us every single day. Heck, I was flying on one of those impossibilities to go get to my daughter. And we are going to play this inner game to win. And so my daughter did survive the unsurvivable. And that is how I got to where I am now, where I work with high-level achievers, getting them to understand and really apply what I call is the EPIC framework. It's for leaders, it's for teams to help them really step out into the world and into their organizations, looking at things through the lens of EPIC, empowerment, purpose-driven, innovative collaboration, and how that when we attach those to three masteries in our minds, we can achieve things that previously appeared impossible. So it has clearly, I think, as you can tell, it's a passion of mine. I saw it work. in the edge that it gave my daughter, who did survive the unsurvivable. And then when my previous business was literally crushed by all the months I had to spend in the ICU with her, it allowed me to understand that I could apply this framework to the 90,000 hours that we spend at work, and that we should not be compartmentalizing work versus the rest of our life. This is not an adversarial relationship of work-life balance. It really is a harmony that when we align them, we do become limitless.
And I really love that. And I love the language that you're using to describe your story. And I know because I know we're kind of we have we have around 15 minutes, and I know how you love to describe things. So we talked about this idea of the language, and talk about kind of you talked about the patterns of self-sabotage and just how you help others in your program. So just kind of give us a taste of that, and we'll uncover whatever comes from that.
Yes. So let's talk high achievers and leaders and teams for a moment. And it really is, if you can reduce it down to the concept of, if I were to say to you, hey, let's just take the virus protection off of your technology. Let's get rid of the passwords. I mean, come on, we can agree by a handshake, can't we? I mean, if it's destined to come your way, that's just the way your computer ends up being wired. Nobody in this day and age in their right mind would say, yeah, I think that's a great idea. We've all accepted our authority to basically even quarantine some things that would come into our external technology. So my emphasis is really, you need to be applying that same sense of authority to your most precious resource. I mean, you can replace a computer that is corrupted. Your mind is your most valuable resource. And so there are three masteries really that will help you become the sovereign of your own mind. So as a top achiever, a leader, someone who just wants to look back on their life feeling like I have fully lived, you need to become the sovereign of your own mind and stop this belief that you are destined to coexist or even be ruled by your own worst enemy. That is hogwash. In fact, even more so, you are wasting your resources if you agree to let your thoughts think you. So how do you take over the sovereignty? Three masteries. It's your focus. In other words, focusing on the presence of what you want and you decide what you're going to make that mean versus the lack of the presence, which most of us talk about all the time. It's like, next year, I want to have a better job. I want to get paid more. That is not talking about what you want. That is talking about the lack of the presence of what you want. So they're completely different entities. And in order to be the sovereign, you must discipline your mind in the same way you would go to the gym and discipline your body toward the development of what you want. There's also your imagination. Most of us use our imagination as adults, maybe a little bit of innovation, but usually on a regular basis. It's fear, it's worry, it's self-doubt. Well, the real top achiever learns that your secret, your superpower is learning to envision what the presence of what you want, what that actually feels like, what it actually is going to look like, and all the different shades of colors, because that's what gives it strength. And then your mind starts triggering your subconscious to like, hey, let's go create that. Let's find that. Let's live that. But the easiest place to start is, to your point, the language. And those are the words not only that you choose to speak to each other, but of course the words that you speak within yourself. Somehow it's considered normal that I think studies have been done that there are like 80,000 critical comments that we make to ourselves in one day. Like, what? Whoever convinced you that this is non-negotiable or that much less normal. But it does take deliberate focus and attention. Case in point, a lot of people, when they first come to me, they're eager to talk about their challenges. My biggest challenge is my confidence, or my biggest challenge is fill in the blank, right? And so think about it. Our words are symptoms of what we believe to be truth. And our words are not just little words. They each have invisible little stories. In other words, association. So when I use the word challenge in that context, in other words, there are times when a challenge can be fun, but in that context, virtually no one is like, yay, I have this challenge. It's like, no, you don't understand. I'm the only person in the world. I have this challenge. I've tried everything. It sucks. That's why I'm here, right? It's really heavy stuff. So it feels almost impossible. But then we don't even leave it there. We amplify it with biggest. Well, if you only have one challenge in your life, can it be your biggest challenge? Whoops. No. So what you're subconsciously telling yourself is, honey, you've got challenges. This just happens to be your biggest, most insurmountable one. So how's that? And then we don't even leave it there. We don't say the biggest challenge. Oh no, we adopt it as our own. This is my challenge, right? Mine. So now it becomes part of our identity, just like the blonde hair, the two eyes, the nose, the mouth. Hi, I'm Meredith with this big frickin' challenge. So therefore, don't dare to give me an opportunity, because you know what? I lack confidence. I'm going to be like, my mind's going to be, hey, Meredith, remember who you are. You don't have confidence. Maybe you should wait on that one, right? So, and ironically enough, the most powerful word in that group of words is not any of those three. It is this little word that goes under the radar, the is. Why is that? Because it's a present tense statement. And we never say anything in the present tense statement unless we believe it to be fact. So when it's fact and it's a belief, it goes into the motherboard as our programming code. So here's a question that we should be asking ourselves on a regular basis. What might I be assuming that is not necessarily true? And in this case, okay, that is a fact. Am I advocating going and standing in front of the mirror and saying, I am a money magnet, when your mind is going, have you looked at your bank account recently, right? Your mind has to be able to believe it. So therefore, the assumption, though, is that that is the only variation of truth. My biggest challenge is my confidence. Well, what about instead rewiring your verbal habits? Instead of looking at the challenges, start looking for opportunities, focal points. So doesn't it also feel true to say, hey, Coach Meredith, my biggest focus right now is figuring out how can I get more confidence? Because I know that were I to get more confidence, I can knock it out of the park. Or even better, my biggest commitment right now is to figure out how do I get more confidence? Because I know that when I walk in that room and I see everyone judging me, I freeze up and it's holding me back. I don't like it. So my biggest commitment right now is this is going to be my summer when I find my confidence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really makes sense. And then, so there was while you were talking, there was something that came to my mind, and it was like basically where you're in three different positions. One could be neutral, like everything's ho hum, and then there's like you were talking about the high achievers, the language of the high achievers, and then there's the language of the struggler or the low achiever. And so, how do you, a lot of the audience is mid to high achievers, but the people that are struggling, what kind of language can you start to employ to move them up into the mid to high achiever category?
Yes, and you bring up something so important. Just because you are quote unquote low achieving in this moment, first of all, it's temporary. It is not, you are not a low achiever. That's part of the language.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. There is no such thing as a low achiever. There is someone who right up until now, maybe I have been feeling a little stuck. You have not lived this moment yet. You've lived a lot of other moments, which may bring forth a lot of data. What you do in this moment is up to you, your choice. So first of all, do not identify yourself for a second with a label that makes you feel small. Remember the framework of EPIC. What empowers you right now? What leans toward your purpose? What helps you innovate and do something a little bit differently? And how can you collaborate with other people? So the answer to your question is kind of in that EPIC framework. It's one, you start shifting your language. So maybe I am not a high achiever yet. If you're determined to use the I am phrase, use temporary, use yet. Add that into your daily vocabulary. Anytime you have something that feels add yet or temporary. Some would go as far in the world of neurolinguistic programming to completely shift it and say, and that's freaking awesome, because it kind of rattles things up a little bit and shakes things up. Your mission with your language is to choose words and phrases that your mind can still ultimately believe that feel just a little bit better. And your emotions will help you there. If you feel that, when you think that thought, it's like the hot and cold game. You're going in a cold direction. If you start to feel a little bit of, or a little bit of like, ooh, yeah, then your thoughts are leading you in a constructive direction. You are not obligated to think any thought that your mind has gotten in the habit of thinking, right? Think of the little baby elephant story where the baby elephants are trained by putting a collar on when they're young, and it keeps them from pulling away. And they grow to believe that whenever they have a collar, they can't pull off this stake that clearly they could. They just now don't even try. So first and foremost, you are not a low achiever. You just, one, need some collaboration, someone who can help you maybe point out some of the blind spots, can give you some things that will help you compress years into months, months into weeks, so that you can progress and see that progress, which will give you more momentum more quickly than trying to trial and error it and usually repeat some of the same things you tried in the past, maybe different variations, different colors of them. So collaboration is big. Think one thought that feels a little bit better. Play with temporary or yet. And again, be very reticent to define yourself by something that makes you feel like you're playing small.
Yeah. Yeah. Very really fascinating. And I was talking to another. Today seems to be the mindset coach day, and she was saying that kind of ask questions to yourself that raise your vibration. So if it can be like hope or happiness or ecstasy, especially like if you're doing something hard, it's like kind of if you're struggling or just kind of something to boost and you hit on it, this emotional high, and go in that direction. Really fascinating. How can people find out more about you? I know you have a free consultation call, and people want to reach out to you, follow your socials, check out your work. How can they do that?
Absolutely. I'll answer that. I just want to up level what this other really wonderful guest said. Keep in mind, as you apply that to think of something that's a little bit hopeful, do not feel that you are doing it wrong if you can't go from total frustration to like, yay, I'm a little bunny hopping through the field. This is a 1% better process in order to stick, in order to be effective. So all you're going for is a thought that feels 1% better. And then when you get there, then the next 1% is achievable. So do not beat yourself up if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, this is freaking hard and I can't think of anything, start with other people. Like, has anyone else ever felt this level of frustration in the past and now is living their greatest success ever? Yeah, probably. Is it reasonable to believe that they totally had a golden spoon? They had all this luck and opportunity that I don't have. Probably not. What did they have? Well, they had perseverance. They kept going. They got people to help, right? So even if you can't relate it to yourself, start with other people and it'll help you get on the wheel. And then just one little thought, one little bit better. So see, I had to jump in there. But
Yeah.
so how can you reach me? We are going to be giving you a link in the show notes. It'll be bit.ly/go epic now. And that we can brainstorm and I can point you in the direction. It may be with me. It may even be with me and your entire team if that's what you're looking for. But I love, as you probably can tell, I love my mission really is getting people to the point where they have one goal and one goal only. And that is to be taking their final breath saying, oh my gosh, this was freaking epic. I hope I have the chance to do this again. And so that means those 90,000 plus hours that you are going to spend at work, I want you to fall in love with them as much as you fall in love with the other parts of the rest of your life, and maybe go on and achieve things that previously or currently might feel impossible. So yes, I'm all over social media. Meridith with 2 eyes. gritmindsetacademy.com is my coaching site. And reach out. I would love to see you soon, and subscribe to this podcast because, as you can see, we're just bubbling over with ideas here.
Yeah, I love that. And I really enjoyed your enthusiasm and, really story. And for all the audience, be sure to give a like and follow on all of the socials. And with that, thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.